Hi everyone, and welcome to the SparkyNinja podcast. It's been a couple of months since I've uploaded because I've been joining the guys over at E5. We've been putting some great podcasts out with a great number of guest hosts, and I've really been enjoying that, and I'm going to carry on doing that. I decided though now's the time to pick up the SparkyNinja podcast because there are many things that I can talk about which are more relative to SparkyNinja's journey, leveling up, training, and things like that, which, to be honest, there's so much content coming through the E5 group podcast that there will just be no room to dedicate any conversations just about SparkyNinja's agenda or direction. So I'm picking this one back up just to kind of focus on that. But to start off with, I did want to do a podcast talking about E5 because I've never really taken the opportunity to talk about E5 on my YouTube channel or on this podcast. Everyone knows, hopefully, that I'm one of the founding members and I'm really involved with E5's works and efforts and that I really enjoy doing it. But I just thought I'd briefly do this just to kind of bridge this gap. I'm going to play a clip, and the reason I'm going to play a clip is, again, I'm part of E5 and I am going to be putting clips of E5 podcasts. Guys from E5 will join me here. I will join them there. We might do subcasts. That's fine. That's perfect. This clip is from an upcoming podcast where we covered what is E5, and we went back to that because a couple of years ago a video was done about what E5 is, but E5 has changed and it's always kind of changing. So we did a little update as to what is E5 today, where is E5 going, and in that long podcast, it's a good hour or so, there was about 15 or so minutes where we talked about what is E5 right now, and we also talked about me personally as to how I got involved, how I got pulled in, why it was that I was approached. So I thought that would make a good little 15-minute little snippet, and I've cut that out. And I thought I'd just introduce it here by first saying about what I think of E5 and then just playing this clip from the E5 podcast. So E5 for me, the origins of it is covered in the clip, but I was creating content on the YouTube, and the content was about trying to show the electrical industry behind the scenes, just to try to show electricians that some of the organizations that we lean on, that we rely on, aren't doing it well or messing it up a little bit. Not to kind of create problems, but to try to show electricians the actual true face of the industry. And then at the same time, I want to try and help electricians decide to level up. It's one of my hashtags that I'm trying to use a lot, to actually be better than what the industry wants them to be, to try to work harder to become a better electrician to the outputs, and that way we can start to improve things. We've had quite a long period of decline, quite a long period of de-skilling is a bit probably not the right word, or it's hard to find another word, but there's been a lot of abuse to training, a lot of abuse to registrations, and keywords, you'll hear me say this on the podcast with E5 a lot, authorizing people into the industry. There's been an absolute lack of control, a lack of quality there. And we've seen a real shunt and a real change, and it's not great. So again, SparkyNinja is aspiring to try to level electricians up. I have this other hashtag, which is MEGA, M-E-G-A, Make Electricians Great Again. And that's this agenda. And E5 is doing great amounts of work behind the scenes. We can't say too much, but listen out for the bigger podcast on the E5 group, and you'll get a little bit more of a preview as to what we're up to. Okay, but I love E5, I love being part of E5, and I just wanted to pick this other podcast up, however, just so that I can actually support and give you updates of SparkyNinja's journey as well. Hopefully this podcast and E5 podcast will both be of good sound amounts of technical knowledge. We're also going to be doing work with other podcasts. I can't say much about that right now, but we've got a couple of manufacturers right now wanting us to engage with them as well. So it's good times for good content. Hope you enjoy this one. I'm going to do another one in a couple of days, updating on this pandemic that we've got going on, and then the technical content will start to stream through. So let's head over now to the E5 podcast that we recorded with Paul Meenan and Dan Jackson.
So for the purpose of people who are listening who may have never heard of the E5 group before, what is E5? How do you sum it up?
Okay. Dave, feel free to jump in anytime, but from my position, we're not a formal business. We're not a not-for-profit. We're not a charity. We're not a limited company in any way. We may be in the future, but as it stands now, I think as a group we've kind of grown together, emerged together, and developed a set of principles, which is the Statement of Ethical Principles. That the whole group and the whole logo came from the Statement of Ethical Principles published by the Engineering Council. So please go away and read that, so you can find out more about what we are and the values within it. And we sat down and we were like, well, okay, what do we want to contribute? We're now like a gang of mates. There's 5 of us. We call ourselves the founder members because we're the original guys who went, yeah, this document's really good and the industry has to improve.
And the 5 guys are, obviously, you're the founder, Paul.
I'm the
David Watt, SparkyNinja, myself, Dan Jackson, Ryan Dempsey, and Paul Skirm. So there's the 5 originals.
So Ryan and Paul are busy tonight, otherwise they'd be on this, but that's fine. That's how we roll when we do our podcast, although Ryan may jump in, you never know with Dempsey. And we do have an open call for all of them to jump in if they need to. Obviously, we've been joined by lots of other people as well on that adventure, John Ward and others, Lee Ward, no relation, obviously, Adrian Davey and others who are very much valued. But for us, it was taking that document and not using it as doctrine and saying, do you know what, this is a really good document that nobody really knows exists. Why don't they know exist? And you go on.
I've got a question then.
Go on in.
Because I was in the group when you did that video, but we didn't actually, it was just you two. So there was a bigger group for a period of time and it got shrunk down. And I believe I was the last of the 5 to be pulled into this 5. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
All right. So
that's because you was hiding, Dave.
I was hiding.
Yeah, in all fairness, you were hiding. Yeah, you were.
What was it about? Okay, without kind of like, trying to like blow smoke up my arse or anything. What was it that was the reason why I was suitable? I needed to be brought into it, and then we decided.
I fell in love with you the minute I saw you. I had to get hold of you. I couldn't have enough of you. I just wanted to cuddle up to you, your warm manliness. No, please don't sue me for that. Sorry, go on.
It was the content you put online, Dave, as SparkyNinja,
right?
And it was sort of highlighting some really interesting points about the electrical industry, saying how it's broken and what needs to be done. And obviously, you was anonymous at the time, and I remember watching your YouTube stuff because you commented on one of my videos, and I was who is this guy? And then I watched like all of your stuff, and I was like trying to track you down online, trying to find out who you are, and then I found you on LinkedIn, and.
I remember because you found me on LinkedIn, and when I went on to YouTube, I found that you could receive messages, and I found a message from you that was like 6 months old when I finally found messages on YouTube. I also found one from Tom Nagy. They've shut that off, I think, now.
Yeah,
DMing on YouTube.
Right, okay.
I had a good old message from Tom Nagy. I had one from Dan months after it. But yeah, so I got brought into it, and then you guys, having had some experience with other characters, decided that that's enough.
Well, there's a little bit.
5.
There's a little bit more to it than that, Dave. Yeah? So, for me, it was, and I use this term a bit because one of the nicest men that I've ever known used it. Sadly, he's not with us anymore. One of the reasons why I looked at you as a phenomenal addition to E5 was the conduct of your character. I know it's a term that Sparks don't use much, but the way you portrayed yourself in your videos, the passion, the integrity, the level of detail, the analytics. The analytics, ignore the effects, and the mechanisms of which you took something dry, dross, and boring and made it accessible to all at any level was so heartwarming and so fulfilling. It was a natural, with the 4 of us, with our skill sets and our knowledge we had, it was a natural thing to ask you to come and join and contribute your talents to share and improve us. And I'll be honest with you, years long gone by, I have every single one of you guys in my brain in various scenarios. So if I'm at work talking about fire, I'm not talking as Paul, I'm talking as Dan. Fire Dan, or I'm having a conversation with Dan. If I'm talking about education sector, I've got you in my brain. If I'm talking about compliance or business, I've got Ryan in my. If I'm having a technical argument, I'm literally sitting in the room going, no, don't be silly, no, because the directives say no. And that I see as such an armor plating skill. It's enhanced my own central abilities, my own knowledge, my own confidence. And I've always said that the best friends are the ones that you respect and who bring something to the table, not the friends that just go, hey, buddy, and then leech off of you. And I've taken something from every one of you guys. I'm not giving it back, but that's what kind of attracted. When we first started, we had a WhatsApp group. It was a car wreck. I think we should just leave it at that, to be honest. It was a WhatsApp group, a car wreck, and it was a lot of complaining. I don't want to upset anyone who's listening to this. It wasn't conducive or positive or with action. It just wasn't right for what we were trying to do. And I just took stock and stepped back. I went, no. The guys who are doing this need to not be in this for themselves in any way. This is a bigger thing, and that's why over time we've agreed that anything we do as E5 is voluntary. It's not paid. We don't take any money for it. It's that in itself is a demonstration of commitment and passion to give up our own time and efforts while still trying to juggle family and business life. Using the statement of ethical principles, as I've said when I created that logo, that circle of continuous improvement around that statement, there is not many people who have, and let's be honest about it, Section 1, honesty and integrity. Sadly, people are going to go mental for me saying that. Fucking hell. In this industry, I'm telling you now, I've met so many wankers who don't have honesty, integrity, and just lie through their back teeth rather than telling the truth. Please don't take that as a character assassination of the whole industry. Respect for life, law, environment, and public good. Yeah, accuracy and rigor, leadership. This document would never have been written if there wasn't a need for it. Because this is not a massively old document. This was introduced for a reason by the Engineering Council. So by putting that at the centre and it naturally coming from Section E5 of the Engineering Council's competency framework, and for those listening, if they're wondering what the Engineering Council's competency framework is, if you Google UK spec for engineering competence, you will find a document that has an A to E criteria. There's 17 criteria in total, and the very last criteria introduced, I believe it was in 2007, was E5, and it was demonstrate ethics in an applied manner. So when you're becoming professionally registered, INC, Eng Tech, you have to be able to discuss and identify how you would apply ethics in the workplace. It's called E5. That's what we were named after. Okay, but the statement of ethical principles is the detailed explanation of how you would do that. So maximize public good, minimize actual and potential adverse effects, take account of availability of resources, uphold standing of profession. That's in Section 2. Challenge statements or policies that cause you professional concern. Section 4, leadership and communication. So I saw that as something that didn't have to be with the high and mighty engineers or the chartered folk. This is something that apprentices could learn, engineers could learn, electricians, teachers, trainers, people managing it. And it says in the document, it's aimed at every single person engaged in engineering activities. So when I first thought about it, I thought, well, if we use this, we can promote the document, we can promote a better level of upskilling in your knowledge and hopefully in your applied behaviours. But soon after, it kind of became obvious that we had to do something if we were going to go on as a group together. And that's where we then sat in Coventry and said, look, if we're ever going to become something, we need to have a vision or values or our pillars, as we called them. And that was when we decided on influence, inspire, inform. And Dave, as I've said before, you were the one who came up and said, look, we're going to do this. We've really got to support people and educate people, because that's kind of the root cause of where most things in our industry have gone wrong. And that was our 5 pillars. And you look at them now, I've got them as my screensaver. We can do that. We can influence people with our right behaviours. We don't have to call ourselves influencers. I can't stand that word. I don't. We can inspire people by achieving things in our personal and professional lives. We can inform people with facts. We can support them if they need an arm around them or just a voice that will listen to them or talk to them. We can educate them. That's within our skill set. Yeah, we're trying to do the right thing around that document, and I think that's a good thing.
Mm. So going back to the video first of all,
yeah,
and you described what E5 was.
Yeah.
Is it a different description now? Is there a change?
Yeah. Well, we didn't have the visions and values in the video. E5 was pretty much if you wear this badge, you're promoting the statement of ethical principles. We hadn't developed or emerged to the point where, as a group, we sat down and said, as a group, we need to do things. around a focused vision. It was a matter of wear a badge to promote the statement of ethical principles and effectively tell us that you'll abide by it. Okay, that's what the initial vision was. Bit pants at the time, but it was something that took off massively.
It was something, and we used the hashtag E5 on social media, and that was the way I explain to people is you can help promote E5. It's just obviously what you do day to day, and it's about raising standards, using ethics within your work.
Yep.
And if you stand for that, you promote E5, you can use the hashtag. And obviously we started sending out badges that you pay for yourself, Paul.
I do pay for every single one. Yep.
Yeah, every single badge that's been out there
fortune.
Has come out of Paul's pocket, literally out of Paul's pocket. Sometimes people request a badge to become a member, and there can be a lot of people being a little bit impatient because they don't get a badge, because we get so many emails. But do you know what? It's just one of those things that we do this voluntary. We don't make any money out of it, and money has to be a part of whatever, even though it's out of Paul's pocket. And some people have even said to us, if you took some money from people, if they could contribute something, then we can grow it into this bigger thing.
Yeah.
But obviously, amongst us, we've decided that.
Yeah. I have had offers of money from people before, and I've always said the same thing, and I'll say it on this podcast. If you feel like we've helped you or we've done something for you, you want to contribute, go to your local college. Give them some equipment. Give them some of your time. If you really want to make a monetary donation, give it to the electrical industry charities. I think I've said that before to a number of people. Yeah. And just use our name in the reference. I don't care, but I don't want money near us. And I know loads of people hate us for that. But at the moment, that's the nature of the beast. I mean, in 5 years' time, I may end up being a consultant. And if I'm a consultant, I may call my company E5. Why? Because it's my brand. I own it. Why the hell not? And in fairness, I'll take some of that money and pump it into buying more badges and more stamps. Why the hell not? But it still will. I will still be able to keep the two separate, because consultancy is a consultancy, and E5 is always going to be about influence, inspire, inform, support, and educate voluntarily, helping. We've over the last year, especially, I think it's fair to say we've agreed that education is something we can definitely influence and inspire. It's fairly evident from all the colleges we've been to around the country, there is a mass shift needed in the knowledge and understanding of how FE works and the support that the college lecturers need. How do we attract and retain talent into that sector? How do we also go to the bigger, and if we dare say it in this podcast, the Pandora's box of how do we address the elephant in the room that is the city and guilds and the awarding bodies? I would genuinely say they need to come to the table at some point and say, you're kind of ruining our industry.
Well, I may be having a little chat with them in a week or two's time.
You may be, because I think you're going to a conference, aren't you?
Going to a conference, and I'm not going for the tea and coffee.
No, you're going there. You're going there, fixed by it.
It is. I mean, we've seen qualifications redone, rewritten, scrapped and relaunched, and we've seen Trailblazers brought in. We're seeing T-levels brought in now. There are organisations trying to develop some level of structure in these qualifications, but there are too many different interests from different areas, different angles, different ends.
There are some people who have said to me over the last few years, especially, why do you do what you do? Sometimes, I mean, like there's one clause, not knowingly mislead or allow others to be misled. Reject bribery and improper influence. Respect confidentiality. Declare conflicts of interest. We know that there are conflicts of interest at all sorts of levels in our industry.
Yeah,
we challenge it, we call it out. We're a bit more mature now. We do it a bit more privately. It's fair to say, but we still do it. We won't use the wonderful world of Twitter and stuff to spill our guts anymore, because.
And I guess it's important to mention that, because if ever there is debates or things on Twitter that we do agree with or we don't agree with, we don't necessarily voice our opinions, because we keep off of that platform as much as we can.
Yeah, it's too damn toxic, to be honest with you.
It is, and it's there's no time to actually get on with that.
And that's also another thing as well for those listening. If you have ever messaged just a couple of bits. Today I was on the phone apologising to somebody because I made some mistakes in past, going back a while, where I made some tweets in my own personal Twitter account, which were probably a little bit facetious and stupid, and of course wrongly worded.
It was passionate, but yes. it was wrongly.
Yes, it was wrongly worded, and I apologise today, and I have made hopefully up with that individual, and have come to a very respectful conclusion with that individual, and we're moving on together in the right way with the right relationship. So not even I get it right all the time, and I'm happy to admit that. But the one thing that has happened, what we noticed, was the website was a disaster. Because for about a year, all the requests we got didn't go anywhere. They seemed to just got lost in the ether. So I've had loads of people going, I wrote for membership. And I was just like, well, hang on, we're not a formal membership, so there's no membership. And then I realised, hang on, we need to sort this out. And so now if people wear the badge, we call them an affiliate to the main group, where they are basically, by wearing the badge, they're supporting the main group's activities. They're also committing themselves to that statement of ethical principles. That's as far as it goes for now.
We've also had some organisations, companies, bodies or whoever say that, sort your members out, because people who are saying obviously they're E5 members have, caused a bit of a stir one way or the other, whether it's on social media, and we're looked at as if we're responsible for that.
Yeah, I've spent the last year of my life being told, sort your fucking members out. And I always love the silence when I say, but we're not a formal membership organisation. I'm not their mother. I can't tell someone what to do. I'm not their mother. I fully respect everybody's views and opinions. However, I will work to realign someone's views and opinions in a respectful and private manner if they are wrong and misinformed. However, if they're misinformed, we as an industry are misinforming people. So you can't exactly blame passionate people who may not have all the facts in front of them.
Yeah, that's true.
It is true. And what can we say now about what E5 is doing? What are we allowed to say?
Ooh.
I'm asking you that question.
We're creating a CPS. No, I'm an
No.
You've spilt the beans. I think it's fair to say that we are...
Just so that people know that we are doing stuff.
Yeah, so we are taking steps to build some bridges. I would say that's fairly evident. I think now we'll leave it at that. Yep. We are trying to plan some more events with Further Education College. I mean, Christ, I did 4 last week. So
we did discuss this just last week. The idea, I mean, this is just an idea of maybe doing in the next academic year, doing some kind of tour with FE colleges. As you say, we keep going back to FE. FE does need to evolve. I'll go back to City and Guilds and the like. If we keep delivering training on 2-plate, 3-plate wiring systems, whilst, if the apprentices go to an exhibition and they see kinetic switching, wireless switching, all these new innovations, new technologies, that stuff needs to get into FE. We need to start evolving FE and also just fixing it. So that's something we have considered.
It's fair to say, I think we are spending a lot more time talking to manufacturers, but that's more of professional engagement, advising them, having pleasant and mutual discussions more than anything else, not being sponsored by them or anything else. Our podcast, we had our first manufacturer on it the other week. We've got more manufacturers coming in who will offer their technical expertise, not their sponsorship. I think as it stands, in all fairness, there is an event, and this will be out before then anyway, so everybody will know. On the March 31st, there is a conference at the IET, which is about the competency issues in the industry. And I think it's fair to say that I've been quite busy sorting that out, in amongst doing free university lectures, attending colleges. By the way, it's only March.
I won't be there.
You won't be there. Dave has voiced his concerns on Twitter for the world to know, and I think that resonated amongst the ivory towers of the IET.
The IET heard.
The IET heard the Ninja quite loudly. I think it's oversubscribed, although I'll probably get in trouble for saying that. It's oversubscribed, but it's supposed to be a small, intimate conference where they talk. I have no idea what I'm going to say. I'm chairing a panel on competency. I'm, to be honest with you, more than likely just to stand up and talk from the heart. I don't care who's there. Nobody will tell me what to say. I will just speak from the heart. I will, however, be very polite and professional because I'll be wearing a shirt and tie, so it will be best foot forward in front of MPs and all the rest of it. But I will do my best to represent and make sure that there is a message resonating around that room.
That's it, guys. I'll see you in the next podcast. Take care of each other. Bye bye now.